Hi, and welcome to Have You Made It, the podcast where I talk to Northern creatives about what they make and how they make it. Today's episode is with the artist and creative Anastasia Tasou. Some of you might be very familiar with Anastasia's work. Over the last 10 years, she's grown this amazing online community and she's a very successful artist. But for those who don't know of Anastasia's work, or maybe if you do, we talk about everything from the very beginnings of how she started to create art and her whole journey of being from the north, moving out to London, studying art history, experiences she had working in art galleries, and then that experience she had moving back up north. We talk a lot about her connection with the north in general, and it's just a really lovely, interesting, inspirational conversation. I absolutely love chatting with Anastasia, so I can't wait to share this episode. So yeah, this is episode 3 of Have You Made It with Anastasia Tasou. I've got my dog and my tortoise are both free right now. Like Tofu's on good behaviour, but he probably will bark. And
Just a roaming.
and the tortoise is just like roaming around and he does get quite loud sometimes. But I've
More
got
the merrier.
treats by my
Yeah, we'll
side.
be fine.
I shouldn't have said that word. He's looking at me now.
Oh,
One
you're gonna
sec,
have
let
to
me
give
give.
him one.
I'll give you one.
Well, the postman's just been, so that's good. So that's out the way. So no weird.
I'll show you him.
Let's have a look.
There
You are so
you go.
cute. God,
I'll go
yeah.
lie down. Good boy.
He's had his treat. Is he a boy?
Yeah, he's a boy, yeah. Now we should hopefully go to sleep. Okay, cool. So I'll read your bio now. Anastasia is a creative from North Lincolnshire. Her work focuses on feelings, memory, and healing, largely through words, and her art spans from pencil to watercolours, from digital illustrations to paint. Since 2012, Anastasia has created a distinct artistic style that has garnered worldwide appreciation. After taking a short break from her small business and leaving a full-time corporate job, she's now back at it again, creating with joy. So I'd like to welcome Anastasia.
Thank you so much. That was the nicest intro ever. Thank you.
No problem, Anastasia. See, for people listening, I asked the guests to write their own bio and send me them. And Anastasia wrote me a lovely one, but I bigged her up a bit more and
It
wrote
was a
it
bit
for.
black and white, wasn't it? It was a bit like I draw. I'm Anastasia. Yeah, you made it all lovely. So thank you for that.
Yeah, now I wanted to shout about your work a bit more. You're too modest.
I know, but it's hard when it's yourself, isn't it? And you only see like the hard side of things and the negative side. It's really nice to hear it from someone else, especially someone like you
Yeah.
doing so much good. It is nice. I'll take that. I'm accepting it.
Do you struggle talking about yourself or talking about your work?
Yes, definitely. And I think it comes from we have this idea in our heads, right? Especially being a teenager, I'd say, till now, of like, what is a writer or what is an artist? And when you sent me a few of the other questions, I was thinking about that and just unpacking it a bit because I do think that it's so intertwined with it's that self-confidence. It's like thinking that you're allowed to call yourself them things, it's that you're allowed to be that kind of person. Because we grow up with this idea of like an artist in your head or a writer, and I just think I'm not worthy of it. But it is just a word, isn't it? Or is that too deep? That was the first question. It's already deep.
I know. I think we're going to get so deep,
Oh, yeah.
Anastasia. I really think we are. No, I think that's totally right. Like, I think it's really hard to call yourself an artist or a poet or a writer and things like that. Like, it's really, really hard. So you've just said, like, growing up, like, you're thinking about the word artist. Like, did you always see yourself as an artist or want to be an artist?
So it's kind of an interesting question because I feel like this was the most formative time, as it is for many people, right? Without telling you my life story, at school, I got asked to do these after school classes. So I did my GCSE art a year earlier. And before that, I'd never thought of doing it. But I had this
Really?
teacher and he was just so encouraging. He's called Mr. Watson. And he said to my mum, maybe she could do it after school. So I used to go every week after school, I think maybe on a Wednesday, and spend a few hours with him and get my GCSE a bit earlier with a group of other people who particularly liked art. And honestly, it blew my mind because he showed me Tracy Emin. And then I found out she was Cypriot and my dad's Cypriot. And then I found out how to do a monoprint. After that, I went to college. Again, an amazing teacher, Mrs. B. Shout out, she'll probably watch this, and Bruce. And these are the people that really sparked that for me and made me think about it. I have to also say, my mum is amazing, and she'd always take me to galleries. And my mum likes drawing, although she doesn't do it as much as she should. But she was that kind of person where if I'd make something, she would just be so supportive and loving and non-judgmental and not over the top with the compliments, just like, yeah, keep doing it, keep doing it. I love when you do that. But I think the teachers for me were massive. And the art room at my college became a kind of solace for me. So it
Yeah.
wasn't really an easy time in my life. We had lots of family stuff going on. My teacher would just say, you can always come in I'd just go sit in there, read the cool books that they had. And I think that just sparked a thing where I thought, oh my God, these are the coolest people I've ever met. And they love art. And it's not embarrassing to talk about art in this way. And I feel like I found my place, even to the point where I'd skive other lessons, sorry, photography, but to go sit in the art room just because the environment in there and like the books, I just remember that the smell of the paint and like the sink with all the paint on it just was beyond inspiring for me at that age, I think.
Yeah, that sounds so inspiring. Like I can't even imagine being introduced to like the works of Tracy Emin at that age.
Yeah.
Like I was much later in life when I discovered artists like her. So I imagine if I'd have discovered Tracy Emin at like college age, it would have absolutely blown my mind, I think. So it's really cool that you had those early influences. I just spoke about this with an artist from Hull recently about how important it is, I think, to have that kind of influence in an education kind of setting from older people who you look up to, because you develop like a taste really early on, and like you say, like you've found like all these new ways to explore with art and realize it was like actually cool to talk about it, and all the books and things like that, like you develop it so early on. So yeah, it's still an early like formative part of your
It's
artistic journey.
exciting, isn't it? It's like someone being like, oh, have you thought
Yeah,
about that? Because you haven't seen it before. And
yeah,
also, I think someone that is Northern, I know this is the whole basis of what you're doing, but someone that is from your community that does talk about that, someone that's different to maybe your family. I have a real supportive family, but someone with a completely different background, and it completely opens your eyes and you think, okay, there's someone who I can be inspired by. I could be like that person. Seeing adults talk so openly and passionately about art. And yeah, that Tracy Emin, what a stroke of luck to have that teacher, because he didn't he didn't show me anything inappropriate, obviously, but he was so caring and so kind of like taught me as if I was an adult learning, like so respectful and not patronizing. And Mrs. B, she's just honestly unreal. Like she's amazing. She just, I would say, just I wouldn't have ever created anything. Like if it wasn't for her, like she totally changed my life. And she'd never accept that, but she did.
yeah.
And many other people as well. Like one good teacher like that can just change everything.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. Out of interest, are those two teachers Northern?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they are. They're Northern as well. That makes it even like cool. I just love it when it's like someone someone Northern, and then you start to think like, where did they learn it, and what was their
Yeah,
journey into discovering these artists, and where have they been in the world, and then they
exactly.
end up teaching at school and like influencing somebody like yourself.
Yeah, and I
It's
think
so cool.
like to think of that journey and then passing it down. And also, you've just made me think, being from an industrial town and a rural town as well, everything does seem bleak at times, and it is, well, it literally is bleak. And to be shown this whole world of art, and it's pretty pictures, isn't it? And it just makes your brain tingle, and you think, okay, there's a world outside of this. Like I can go into all these different directions, and I'm still in my town, but it just feels so groundbreaking. I don't know if that is what other people experience, but it really felt like my eyes were just opened.
I think people probably do have that experience, and also using art as, and not just art, music and other forms of art as a form of escape. Like, and there is this kind of cliche, isn't it, from the North, like when you're a angsty teenager and I want to get out of this town.
In the small town.
Like, yeah, like, and like we were just chatting before we started recording this, but even when I was younger, I used to be like, I can't wait to get out of Hull. And it was bleak and, it has like a bad reputation and all of this stuff. But for me back then, it was like music that kind of made me realize there was like a bigger world out there and that kind of thing. So yeah, 100%. Like it's fascinating when you're a young person and you find out that there's all of these artistic amazing things happening. You live in, like you say, like an industrial or a really
Yeah.
rural town.
A place where I don't think is totally. I want to be careful how I say this, because I'm not trying to look down or patronize the place where I'm from. But when art is not really respected, and it's sort of like, well, why would you want to do that for? But that's no fault of anyone that lives there. That's because it is a place where people have had to work in trade jobs and industrial jobs and industry jobs, literally to keep going. So it's not the town's fault that it has that view. And we all can change that by educating, I think, and making things more accessible. So when I'm saying that, I'm not slating it, because I understand, and I actually would rather be here making in that environment than somewhere where it's almost too easy. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I think as well that's part of the reason for up north. There's lots of reasons why we're doing up north, but if like a young person can like listen to one of these episodes on a podcast or come across our website or read some stuff from some people who have done amazing things in their town, like how amazing would that be to show them that actually like you might have an interest in art, but you don't have to get like a trade job. You could still do something with art if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So there's so many people I know. There's people I'm friends with, people I've spoken to recently who are like, oh, I always like wanted to do art, or I wanted to do graphic design and I never did.
Yeah.
And now they're doing a job and they're happy in their life, but they're like, I could have done something artistic and I never did.
There's that thing there, that little thing in the back of your mind, I suppose. And also, I think giving people that space just to be seen and to be heard is so important. That's why it's so important to see what you're doing and to not have this kind of hierarchy of that was bad or that's good or like that's cool and that's not cool. I just think it's a nice idea for everyone to kind of come together because we are all stronger when we are together as well. And I think that's what boosts people.
Yeah, definitely. I think on that note, see, I'm very familiar with your work, Anastasia, because because I think probably from about 2013, since the dawn of my like Instagram account,
Yeah.
like being created, I think I've known of you and your work. And I think that was maybe when you started to create, like as in started to create and start posting it and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We can chat about that. But obviously I've known of your work for a long time and throughout the years like bought things. I actually have bought something recently which I will show at some point
Thank you
for
so
the
much.
the extended YouTube edition. I'll show it to the camera. But for those who aren't familiar with your work, how would you describe your work? What kind of things do you like to create?
I'd say it's simple, and I think that is a power. I don't think that's a negative thing. It's simple. It is direct from my heart. When I was younger, I used to read books and I'd read about outsider art. It's one of my like super. I'm a nerd about that subject. If anyone doesn't know what outsider art is, it's art produced by people who are outside of the realms of the art world. Now, because I went to university and did art history, maybe I'm not an outsider, but outsider art to me, I'm getting deep here, Bev. So this is a whole
Go
art
deep.
history lesson. You can tell I did art history. This is the only thing that really resonated with me. It's also a real classist and ableist and controversial term because often these are just regular people making art or people with mental illnesses or people with differences. That interests me because it is just people making things that they want to make. And for me, that is what I try and do. The reason why I create is because I suffered a loss and a grief, and since then it's just been my way of coping. So I don't think there's any strict continuity with my work. I think that a lot of it is writing. I'm trying to describe it as if I would if someone hadn't seen it. I think there's a lot of words. I really like power of words, and I'd say it's like a diary kind of style. I just try and be as honest as possible and try to be as kind of least pretentious, even just to myself. Like just try to get it onto paper, keep it nice and simple.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank
I
you.
think your art was probably my first introduction to that type of art, like illustration and kind of like soft illustration, I would describe it as. I'm not sure if
Oh,
that's a
I'm
word you
honoured.
would resonate with, but also words as an art form. You use a lot of words like within your artwork. So I would say that was probably like my like first introduction to that type of art.
Thank
And
you.
I think it's so beautiful. Like, I absolutely love it. And I also really love that you create so many different formats of your art and it's so accessible as well. Like, I
Thank you.
recently bought a print that you did, like a Riso print, I think it was.
Yes.
And it's so beautiful. And it was literally like a fiver or something. I just think you could be selling it for so much more. But, I just love that it's like super accessible and like anybody, who has a fiver can buy like the most beautiful piece of artwork.
Oh, that's so nice. Like that, what a lovely compliment. Thank you. I do think I could be more accessible with things I'm doing, but with pricing, I've always tried to keep it as low as possible because it just, I don't know, if I go somewhere and I look at a stall and like a craft fair or something, everyone has their own right to price things however they want. However, there is some pricing that's not accessible. And I know it doesn't cost that much to make. And I know it doesn't really make sense. And I know we've all got to make money. So there is a balance there. And I'm
Yeah,
not
of
trying to
course.
kick off at anyone who you do you. But with me, I just try to do it as low as I possibly can. So I'm not making a loss, which is not great business wise, but I'd rather more people have it and enjoy it. And for
Of
someone to be
course.
like, right, a fiver, let's go and treat ourselves. And we've got something that we can put on our wall and it doesn't cost too much. So thank you. I appreciate that you noticed that.
Yeah, of course. And I think as well, like it's funny because I love to buy art and I'll buy art at quite higher prices. Like if I can, like I will. If I love it, I will. And I totally stand by that people can they know how much art can go for because the art
Exactly.
industry is crazy when it comes to money. So I totally get like people knowing their worth and being like, this is how much it's going to cost because it's this
Absolutely.
good and all of this stuff. Can appreciate that. And I also appreciate the other scale of it, which is exactly what you've just said. And I'll have both pieces of art and I'll love them equally.
Yeah.
Like just because one was more expensive doesn't mean I like appreciate it more or like anything like that. I appreciate them exactly the same way.
I think
So
that's the healthiest way to look at it because you're doing things on what you like. And I think that if you connect with something and you can afford that, then I just think it has to be a balance. But I think it's good to be aware of it. Like everyone can price what they want, like you say, there is a price for things. But because I'm able to make prints like the Rizzo prints, that was an amazing place. Also, Northern Footprint Workers Cooperative, the Anarchist Rizzo place in Leeds, amazing. And they're really affordable. So then for me to put it up loads would just feel wrong. You know, in that context, it just feels. I'm not trying to rip people off. I just want people to have a nice picture that they love and they can get excited about.
I'm going to show it now while we've got a
I'm gonna have
moment.
some water while you just have a sip, if you don't mind.
No, of course not. I'll cut this bit for the
ASMR.
podcast version. Yeah. I might actually do an ASMR. I love ASMR.
Same. I love with the soap when they crunch the soap.
I forgot to show the actual packaging. Also, when it came, what's so good about the fact that your art is like words as well is when it came, I won't show the front because obviously it's my address, but it says this on the back, and I was like, that's Anastasia because I recognise your handwriting. I was like, I
I
know
love
it's
doing
hers.
things like
And it
that.
comes in this beautiful, so cute.
Thank you so
I
much.
think it was £5.
I think it's 4 or 5, somewhere in between. It might have been 5.
And
Yeah.
there was some extras in there, but I've already stuck the stickers somewhere, so there it is.
Thank you so
Beautiful.
much.
And this was from Leeds.
Yes. So I will give you their Instagram and then you could pop it somewhere perhaps. But they're
Yeah.
amazing. They're so good and affordable and really nice to work with. So why not?
Yeah,
Thank you
why
for
not?
that shout
Why
out.
not indeed? Fair shout out of the session.
First of many, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I mentioned earlier on that I've like followed you a long time on Instagram. You've garnered like a lot of online followers, like you have from what I've seen on your Instagram and even the comments. You've got this like beautiful online community. When was that spike of growth for you? And what was that like? Or has it been a gradual thing online? And what's your relationship with social media? I know it can be quite a tough place to exist as well. So
That's an interesting one. So I started creating and I had this Instagram account with like 15,000 followers, right? And I was really pleased. And then I was on this flight to America. I got off the flight and my Instagram was hacked. And this was before two-factor authorization. So I'd just been on the plane and someone took the Instagram and it had no dot in the middle. So it was just my full name and it was perfect. And then it went. And I remember thinking then, that's it, I'm done. Like I've worked so hard for this and now what? And I think by that point, I was very obsessed with, okay, let's build this up because this was the era where organic content popped off on Instagram. So you could just be gaining followers like mad. But then I rebuilt it. And when I worked with Drop Dead, Sheffield based, another shout out, that really boosted it. And I remember someone commenting something a few years ago that was like, you've only got that many followers because you work with Drop Dead and you're associated with these people. I just thought, I get it, but as you've mentioned, there's such a nice community and that goes beyond anything. And regardless of how people have found me, I'm so thankful for people who have stuck around or new people and to see people engage, particularly as Instagram becomes harder to navigate and particularly as numbers work differently now to how they did before. Seeing people pop up and noticing names and it just feels like a real nice community has been created and I feel really safe there and I feel like I can be honest now. But it definitely went through a period when I had a bit of that, what do people call it, imposter syndrome?
mm,
Because I saw the number and I remember someone else said, you've bought the followers. And I remember just thinking, no, my engagement's just really bad. But I overthink. So I think about that a lot. Like,
yeah.
imagine someone thinking I actually bought followers. Like, no, it's just the engagement's rubbish. I think that intertwined with being creative is very challenging.
Mm.
And everything you post kind of has this barometer of like, people like it, people don't like it. And then that reflects on the work that you decide to create. But I feel where I am now is I'm sort of past that challenge. And I've come to the point where I just think I can hide my likes. I don't have to see them. It's not for anyone else. It's for me. I don't have to look. I just want to post. I have my other job freelancing, so anything is a bonus. And it's become more of a place where I feel like I'm returning home now, which
Mm.
sounds so corny. But at one point, it was an app that I just wanted to avoid because I was just thinking, no one likes anything anymore, and I'm rubbish, and I'm all these thoughts that you have. But I feel like I'm past that, which is really nice. And that's only thanks to people who have been there and kind of stuck by me and been so open to like receiving what I am putting out there.
It sounds like you're in a really nice place with it now. I can't even imagine what it must be like as an artist. Basically putting your work out there and nobody being able to see it. Because like you say, there's been all these changes to Instagram. There was once a time when like you'd post something and if someone follows you, they will see it. Whereas now that isn't the case. You'll post something and probably the majority of your followers won't even see it on their feed anymore. So there's been this complete turn of what Instagram is and what it means now. But I will say that to me, from like an outsider looking in, it doesn't look like you were just saying like, oh, it likes, like it could maybe make people inform what they make, but it doesn't look like you've done that if you ever did at any point feel that way.
I think it's just that thing in the back of my head. For a while, I had that sort of, I don't want to make that because no one even liked it, but then no one likes it because no one sees anything. But when you've got that mindset and you're stuck in that cycle and you just think, well, I'm not going to make anything then because it's too stressful, and then you don't make anything at all. Whereas now I just feel grateful that I even have that in the first place. And I think maybe I did take it for granted before and didn't realize like how much that was impacting my creativity. But
Yeah.
I think it can be a really positive place. The thing I struggle with, I was talking to a friend about it, saying that these days it feels like you have to like do a dance on camera if you're an artist online. Like I can't. I hate showing my face. I'm not confident like that, and I would not want to do that anyway. Or like show my art by turning it round. You know, like all
Yeah,
these
that's a big
trends.
thing at the minute.
All respect to those people. That if you can dance like that, then good on you. But I don't want to have to give in to that. I just want to be real.
Yeah. And I think that's like what your work is very real. So it wouldn't make any sense for you to start dancing on Instagram.
Next week you're gonna see me do a little.
Do a little reveal. But like you say, like credit to those people. Like I see loads of them, and a lot of them I'm like, yeah, your art's sick and like fair
Yeah,
play. And
and
some
it
people are
came
like,
up.
exactly, there it was. I saw it. I don't follow you, but here you are. I'm seeing your art. Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? How there must be just so much. I don't even want to get into it actually because it's too much to bear. But there must be so many people who are making amazing things. You just don't see it because they're not making the type of content that the social media platforms are wanting to push.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole other podcast just kicking
Just
up
about
about the algorithm, I think.
that. But it's good to hear that you feel like you have a nice community there because anyone listening, if you go to Anastasia's Instagram, you'll see she has a really lovely, you post really nice things and have really nice community commenting and talking to you, which is really sweet.
I feel so lucky, like they are. Everyone I've engaged with on that level has just been so, so nice. I did workshops a few years ago, and that was really nice because I got to meet people in person before COVID. And it just makes it real because I just can't believe anyone would care about me to that extent or care about what I do, but it's so affirming that someone does. And I feel like that is when you connect with people. In this world, and like, I hate to be all Black Mirror, but social media can be so overwhelming and negative and scary. And I feel all of those things. So just having a nice message pop up or someone leave me a cute little comment, it just makes me feel like, okay, this is why I'm still here on this platform.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you about your workshops. What were they like? Where did you do them locally? Did you travel around for them? What
So
did you
I went
do?
a bit mad and I went all over the UK. I went to Manchester, Leeds, Bristol, Glasgow, Edinburgh, I think. No, maybe not Edinburgh. Maybe Edinburgh. And then I did some in Athens.
Wow.
I didn't do any local to me because no one wanted me to do them. And I've tried to email a few local places recently, but didn't get a reply. So I might really try and just start calling them because I really would like to do them again and more locally and maybe some free ones as well. I did one at my college actually. That was really nice. But they were just amazing. We kind of did a creating from feelings thing. So everyone chats about stuff and then creates in their own time. And it doesn't have to look like anything, but sometimes it's nice just to create alongside people. And I think it's a big confidence booster. And I really like talking to people, as you can probably tell, but people are so open in that environment. And I'm so grateful that people came with that kind of attitude. Like even people just coming on their own and trying something new who had never created before. I really loved that. And I was super confident and brave then. I don't know if I'd feel so confident now, but I think these are the after effects of COVID, right? Like everything sort of changed then.
Yeah, so you did the workshops like just before COVID, I think you said.
Yeah, so pre-COVID, and then I did some online ones, which I absolutely love, but I definitely would like to get back to in person.
Yeah, you should definitely do some in person. I think there's a real need, and I think people are really wanting to connect with people again. And
Yeah.
like you say, creating together in one room is something really nice that a lot of people probably won't have either ever experienced or have only experienced at school, like in
Yeah,
an art
that's true.
class, and then they'll leave and then they may never do that again unless obviously they have like a creative like home life or they have
Yeah,
kids maybe that they create with. But yeah, for so many people, like it's not something that they'll do in a group setting. Like I can't remember the last time
that's such a
I
good
did
point.
that.
You've got me thinking now. Wouldn't it be nice to have these sessions where people can just turn up and do their own thing? I used to do these things online, which was just like 2 hours, and we'd just keep the cameras on and everyone would get on with their own stuff. Be nice to do that in person because also it encourages you to just get your head down and just get working on something. Because the atmosphere's so nice, isn't it? When everyone's just doing things and chipping
Yeah,
away.
yeah, you can like hear like people painting or scratching and
Yeah.
like with the pencil and
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. Yeah, 100%. There's actually a guy I spoke to recently who is based in Leeds called Edek Thompson, and he does these things like a community organization. They're called Doodle Chats, where they go to a venue and he like hosts it, and they have like all of the tools that they need, paper and pens and etc. And people just can go for free, and they all just sit and chat and
Sounds amazing.
doodle. I know it's really cute. I think there's one coming. I don't know when I'm going to be releasing this podcast actually, so I might miss it. But I think they do them like every month, maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah, like
That
that kind
sounds
of
so
thing. I
good.
think is yeah, like those kind of things are so nice
Yeah.
to do. Like I think about like my mum, for example. Like, and she used to. You know when colouring books were a big thing?
Yes.
Like
The
I want to
boom.
say like 10 years ago, maybe. There was this boom of colouring, adult colouring
Yeah.
books. And my mum just absolutely loved it. And she'd just sit like for hours, like doing colouring. And she still sometimes does it now, like occasionally.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so sweet. And I'm like, oh,
It
she would love
is.
to do something like that, like a class or something where everyone could just sit and do that together.
Yeah, like I think your self-doubt goes a bit, doesn't it? Because you just can get wrapped up in your world and no one else minds, and you just. I think my mum would really enjoy that too. Actually, now we should get all the mums together.
Yeah.
I do think it would be nice to have that kind of space locally. There's a place near me that does silent book clubs, and you just go take a book and you can have a cup of tea. And I think like that's just such a nice thing, people coming together, especially after COVID, just restarting that, I suppose. You've got me thinking now, you know.
Let's do it. Let's do an up north, get the mums out colouring club.
Absolutely.
So you had a small business then from we say small. I actually don't think it was that small. You called it a small business, but I think it was just your business. And you made all sorts of products too. Like I remember, I think I bought a key ring like back in like 2015 or something like that.
Everything. I think it's like over 25,000 orders, so maybe I shouldn't say small, but it was just me and my mum, so
Yeah, no, it's small in that sense, of course. It's like homegrown. It was just you and your mum, which is really
yeah.
sweet. And then, did you still have that during COVID,
So
or
I
had you stopped by
did,
then?
but I dialed it down. I think we didn't send any orders. I did like digital products instead,
Hmm.
which I really like doing, and I would like to do that more because it is so accessible. People can just literally download it. You don't have to worry about postage and all the rest of it. And obviously, it was no contact then. But I had that in COVID, and it was booming because everyone was at home, so people were downloading stuff, and I do colouring sheets and everything. But then after COVID, it just got so difficult because obviously no one had money, and I just had all this stock, and I just didn't really know what to do, and no one was buying it. So that's when I got a proper job, let's say. I've reopened it now and I'm selling a few things, and I've just designed a zine, literally sent it off before I joined this call, which will be my first one in like, I don't know, 5 years or something. So I'm feeling really positive about it, and I'm feeling positive to kind of start again from fresh, start really small, get control of it, feel like I'm in control and I'm happy with how everything's going. And it just gives me a nice little focus, packaging up the orders and designing a few things, but not going too crazy, just although I was very grateful for how much it did sort of kick off before, right now I'm happy with the pace of how things is because I'm finding my confidence again, I think, with that.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Like a really sustainable way of doing it as well.
I think so, yeah.
Because selling 25,000 orders in a short time with just you and your mum sounds a lot.
lots of me huffing. My poor mum, she will watch this as well. Like, she put up with a lot. And it was hard. And then the prices would go up all the time. And it's very hard to keep control of all that stock. I think for me, and you didn't ask this, so I'm sorry, but I've never felt like I had a community of creatives around me. And I always just felt really alone. And my dad and mum are super supportive. My partner's really supportive. But no one really understands when you're the person doing it. And sometimes I just really felt like I don't know. I don't want to sound entitled because how lucky am I to have had a business for that long to sustain myself in that way? But it is a challenge. And it's only now, things like this, or I go to pottery, I have people around me that are creative and I can talk to them about it. But it definitely, it's not easy to create that. I think that's sort of a misconception that everyone online that's creative kind of has loads of people around them and they're all like hanging out. I don't. It's just me.
I think what you're saying is totally valid. I'm sure it can be so lonely. I wouldn't class myself as a creative, but my husband Ellis is an artist, and he would like. It's kind of another reason for up north was like I want to like talk to other artists and feel like what I felt like
Yeah.
when I was like at art school, where I could
Yeah.
talk to other artists and we could like discuss each other's work and just get inspiration from each other. And I also think this is a northern thing and a small town thing too, because a lot of the time there is one creative kid in the class,
Yeah, that's
or
true.
there's like or there's maybe there's a few if you're in a bit of like a bigger school, but sometimes you might be the only, or that you know of, the only like outwardly creative person in your friendship group
Yeah.
potentially, because especially in
Yeah.
small towns you all kind of get lumped together and there might be like 4 or 5 of you and you could all have totally different things that you like and you end up all just kind of trying to like the same thing and doing the same
Absolutely. Yeah.
things like in a small town, like you all just end up
Yeah.
like
That's
doing
such
the
a good
same
point.
things.
I didn't even think of it like that. But yeah, and it creates that alienation and you just think, oh, I just better get on with it. But that's not
Exactly.
healthy. Like, you need that connection.
Yeah, 100%. I'm trying not to like reflect too much on my experience growing up, but based on what people tell me, I'm like, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you'll have a friendship group and you are friends because of where you're from. That is initially like what it starts from. And then as you all grow up, like, you all have different tastes, but you stayed like really, really close friends. But there might be some friends that you discuss certain things with or
Exactly. Yeah.
do certain things with. But yeah, like when I was a teenager, I was like going to like house parties. Really thinking about it, I wasn't really that bothered about going, but we all just, I don't think any of us wanted to go or do
Just
it, but we
do,
all
don't
just
you?
did,
Yeah.
you know? And then you grow up, and then if you, obviously you went to London and probably met like lots of creative people then, so it'd be interesting actually to talk about the
Yeah.
differences in that and
Let's
what it was
unpack
like for
it
you.
because
Yeah.
that's a whole,
It can be so lonely as a creative person. And also creative
definitely.
people aren't necessarily like outwardly, what's the word, an extrovert. A lot,
Extrovert.
even if their art is loud, it doesn't mean that they are.
No, 100%. And that's an interesting point because I think, although sometimes my work says a lot, I think as a person I am very introverted. And I think some people think I'm lying when I say that, but it's just masking. Like, I can just act as an extrovert and I can do what I need to do. Like, I love public speaking, I don't mind any of that because I can put on a mask, but the real me is in there somewhere. And when you've got this business going on and you're stressed and there's something wrong with the postage and then someone's angry because something didn't turn up, which is they're allowed to be angry, but there's all these things happening. I would just go in myself and just think, I can't. And then because your creativity is linked with your productivity, then that declines. We are so good at this deep chat, by the way. Like, I feel like we've just gone straight in and I love it. Your questions are amazing.
No, I think it's your answers are forming the questions. Like I think there's so much that we can unpack. Let's talk about London then, because I've already mentioned the word cliche once, but there is this cliche, I guess, of being the creative from a northern town and being like, get me out of here. Like, I want to move to London. And I'm saying that because that is also something that happened to me. So yeah, let's talk about that.
You've just given me a shiver because I have such funny feelings about this whole thing, and I do wonder how this is received by you if you kind of have had similar experiences. So I went to uni in 2011 and I went to Goldsmiths and I was so excited and I thought this is going to be like Skins. But I also thought I'm obsessed with Cook from Skins. That obsession will never end. But I also thought I'll be able to speak to people who love art. And it's so funny thinking of my little brain and thinking, oh my God, I'll be able to speak to people who like get it and people who know who Tracy Emin is. And I'll be able to get out this small town and I'm going to be someone and I'm going to do something. And then getting there and realizing that no one actually cared. And just sort of like turning up with loads of like oomph and excitement for it. And then the reality is just so sad. So I think about myself as because you are so young, right? Like you don't feel it at the time, but you are. And I took all my little art books with me and my little posters, and then just realised that no one in my class was actually that bothered, and that a lot of people in my class, which was history of art, were super wealthy. It amazed me, like they didn't have loans, like or anything or grants. They just paid. But I'm not trying to be critical of those people because I think that what a position to be in. But to me, that was very new. And these people, a few of them in my class, were the children of like art collectors, and they sort of just did the history of art degree because it was something to do and it looked good. I had no idea that history of art had this surrounding it and had this reputation. I was just excited about art, and I found I'm going off here. Is that all right?
Continue. I'm
Okay,
nodding along because I don't want to interrupt you. This is
no,
great. Go on.
drop in, guys. I remember thinking, all right, I've got my reading list. And I would go down the list, and everything was so complex. And I did not understand anything. And I still don't know what postmodernism is. And I still don't know what canon means. And nothing was explained. There was so much assumed knowledge of like, everyone's just talking. I'm thinking, well, aren't we here to learn this? But you all know it. And it just, from the first lesson, I was like, I don't feel good here. I think I was one of two northern people in my whole flat, in my floor of my flat. And sometimes I do wonder, was I looked at differently, but maybe I didn't realise it. And like thinking back and thinking, I don't really see anyone from uni. I have like one or two friends, maybe one. But you always wonder, like, how was I perceived amongst that?
Yeah, and you don't think about that at the time either, because why should you? Because you're so young and you're just like you
You're
say,
just excited.
you just experience, yeah, you're just there for the experience, and you go thinking that everyone's going to be in the same position as you, which isn't the case, and obviously wasn't the case. That's so interesting. Firstly, can we just say Goldsmiths is like an absolutely incredible, like
The
the
name is
most
great.
the most prestigious art school was definitely in.
Yeah, it's kind of the one. So it was between that and St. Martin's, but Goldsmiths was like quite small. It was more of a college kind of looking place. But yeah, I think my perception of it was not the reality.
Yeah, it's such a shame because I mean, what an amazing achievement for you to get into Goldsmiths and you get there and it's like you all think I thought I was here to like learn things. I thought everyone was, but actually you all already kind of know this thing and your parents are art collectors and
Yeah, they used to
what?
talk about, well, my father has, and then would reel off these things, and I would just think, oh my God, I was intrigued because I want to know because I'm nosy. But it's interesting that perceived knowledge and like the accessibility of it all. And I think when you go into university, my perception of it was that I would learn how to speak like this. I would learn how to be in the art world. But instead, it was so presumed that we had this knowledge already. And all the texts we got assigned were just so inaccessible. And I know you have to read certain things, but there was no build up. Like there was no support. It was just, here you go, and you should already know this stuff. Like, how am I supposed to know? I'm 19 or however old you are, 18. I don't know, just turned 19. Like, is that how old you are, I think?
I think
18.
so.
Yeah, around
18 or
then. A
19, I
baby.
think. Literally. And also it makes you think like what were these people doing at college? Like what
Yeah.
were they what colleges did they go to or sixth forms? Like what were they doing and learning to have the presumption when you get to uni that they already know all of this stuff?
Yeah, like how have you had the time to do this? And what kind of place are you coming from? I remember in one of my classes, I had this amazing, super feminist. I remember I just thought she was amazing because she had real curly hair and real hairy armpits, and I loved this woman. And she would always show us really controversial and interesting videos. Like John Waters, the first time I ever saw anything of his, she would show us all this subversive stuff. I remember one time we were talking about class, and someone actually said that they felt scared and when they went through a place with council houses. And they said that and no one reacted apart from the teacher, the lecturer. But I remember just thinking, don't know where these people are coming from. And I found it so offensive. And I was thought about my grandma and I just thought, I don't know, it really riled me. And I wonder if any other people have had that experience, if I was just unlucky. But it just did not feel like a place where I felt, I wouldn't say welcome because people were fine, but I didn't feel like I really got out of it what I'd hoped.
Yeah, that's such a shame because it's such an exciting time where you do hope to get a lot out of it. Like you're spending a lot of money and grants and all of that kind of thing to be able to go and do these things. And it is such a shame. And I do think a lot of people do come away from uni overall being fairly disappointed with their
Yeah,
experience. Like most people I know have that, and same to be perfectly honest. Like
yeah.
it's never you don't ever come away from being like, wow, that was totally worth all of the like debt that I went through and like all of the what I've come away with it is this like random certificate that probably doesn't actually mean that much. So
Yeah.
it is a real shame. You say that at the time you didn't feel like you were being perceived a certain way, but did you feel like you had to change the way that you were, like I don't know, even like the way you spoke or anything like that? Like did you feel like you had to do that or did you just not?
Then, I mean, it's funny because my accent's quite neutral because my mum's Scottish and my dad's from Cyprus and he lived in London. So it's very, I just think it's quite plain. But when you go down there and everyone's taking the mickey out of it and doing the whole, hey up, we've been down the mine, like, do you know, like all these things. And I just think, like, let's not get started, first of all. But second of all, I definitely did feel a pressure to fit in some way. And I think with people like that, you can't because you've got such different backgrounds. And for me, neither of my parents went to university. There was also a lot of pressure on that side. Love my parents to death, but especially coming from an immigrant dad, like there's a pressure to you have to go to university. That's what you do because now we have this privilege to go, whereas he didn't have that. So it's definitely like a status of like yes, my children are in education. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot there also to kind of untwirl. And because of that pressure, I stayed. I am glad I did because I ended up skiving all my lessons and I got a lot of work experience in some galleries. So for that part, it was interesting and I found that life interesting. But I definitely think within the uni environment, I didn't feel like I could totally relax and just be myself.
Mm. There's so much we can talk about here. I'm trying to decide which
Which route
tangent we
do we
should
go
go
with?
down because I want to talk about the pressures of going to uni and your upbringing, but I also want to talk about the art gallery, working in
We
art
can do both.
galleries. Let's do both.
At 3 p.m., I have a meeting, but we've got time, haven't we?
Yeah, oh, we've got plenty of time. I mean, I do think it's only what time is it now?
20 past 2.
We've got
Come on.
time. We've got 40 minutes. We can always do a part two,
Oh,
Anastasia.
yeah. I'm up for it, honestly.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about let's talk about like the you said about the pressure of going to uni. Do you think you would have gone to uni if you didn't have that?
No, I think I would have probably liked to have started a business or potentially done something more practical. Like my mum is a seamstress and my dad has a trade of sewing as well. He was a tailor, his first ever job in Savile Row. It
Really?
sounds really fancy, but he said it was actually an awful condition, even though like in a tiny workshop. But they've both got this trade. Like my mum is an absolute genius with a sewing machine. And I'd quite like to learn something like that because now I feel like I don't really have them practical skills. The thing that attracted me to uni was purely going to meet people who get it, I thought. And also, I'm going to get out of this town. If I knew then what I knew now, maybe I wouldn't have left for the same reasons or for as
Mm.
long.
Yeah, that's interesting. But it sounds like at least you got something out of it, like you said, with the art galleries. So
Yeah.
where did you work? What did you do?
So my dad basically encouraged me when I told him I wasn't enjoying it so much. He sort of said, maybe you can do an internship. This was in the days where internships were to a penny because they didn't have to pay you. Remember them days when it wasn't illegal?
Yeah.
So it was just like slave labor, basically.
Yeah.
I used to work on this gallery in Deptford on the high street, like a super gentrified gallery now looking back, but it was an opportunity for me and worked with this lady who owned the gallery and she did kind of art walks and it was a really busy gallery and a lot of different people visited and that was really nice because sometimes kids would come in after school and just have a look around and sometimes it would be the more trendy art lovers that would come have a look. And I remember selling my first piece there and getting some commission and just being so shocked. It was so
Ooh,
exciting.
that's
But
exciting.
I know, right? Like cold hard cash. But mainly it was mopping the floors, working at the front desk, adding people to subscriptions, that sort of thing. And then from that, the owner exhibited with a few of their artists at Affordable Art Fair and the London Art Fair. So I was there for like 2 years at every like 1 year and then the next year. And then from that, I met a girl who worked at Saatchi. So I did their New Sensations exhibition. And it basically was just there to speak to people, schmooze, and sell art. But for me, that was so interesting. And that's when I thought, okay, oh, I'm really sorry.
It's fine. I think she's muted you.
Am I back on?
Yeah, she muted you for a second.
She's muted.
She's like, Mummy, stop talking and give me some attention.
God, they just do it at the perfect time. She's adorable. What was I saying? Satch Gallery. So yeah, I would show people around, sell some art. It was so interesting. And we'd have these private views and people would get drunk and like someone leant on a sculpture once and it knocked over and it was amazing. It was the drama of it. And the security guard would like take care of us girls. I'd met some really strange, eccentric, very rich, interesting people. I'm working at art fairs where I really like sales. That's my confession. So sorry. But like, I really like talking to someone face to face and then them loving something and then me being like secure in the sale. It was really exciting because it gave me a focus and I love talking about the art. So it meant that I was doing my job. That part of it, it was invaluable, honestly. And it was so worth going, I think, just for that, really.
It sounds it. That sounds like a really great experience. Also, it sounds like a really good London experience. It sounds like a movie London experience, you know? Like a girl from the north is working at a gallery and making these big sales and talking to all these like rich, eccentric people. It's amazing.
Like some rich old man and he's trying to flirt with you, so then you just sell a piece of art and then you think, yes, I just got like 100 quid and it just feels amazing.
Yeah, that sounds it does the move to London for just for that alone, I think sounds kind of worth it and what a great experience. And I would encourage people like just because I love the north and what up north is, I'm not saying that London is the worst, like don't move to London. Like I think for some people and at the moment, it's kind of essential still for some people in certain industries to move to London to do certain things. Like music, for example, I think is kind of, if you want to work in like music publication or anything like that, it's kind of essential right now for you to do that. I recently spoke to a writer from Stockton-on-Tees, like in the northeast, and she's like, I could not do this job like anywhere else. Like I just simply can't. But I would encourage people, like if you are going to go to London, like to try and get experiences like that because that's 100%. where you there's nowhere else really that you're probably going to get that kind of experience with all this. It's really international community as well, so that you're going to meet all kinds of different people if you're doing an experience like that. That sounds amazing.
That opens your eyes, definitely. And you kind of think, I remember feeling after I had a particularly good day, I'm living, like, this is why I came here, you know, like a movie, you kind of like, everything's been coming to this point. I get to be around all this art and I feel so inspired and it just felt really exciting. So yeah, you actually turned that around for me. Uni part of it was really disappointing and I felt real disillusioned with it. I didn't read more than one of the recommended texts. Like that just shows you. And there must have been hundreds, but that part of it was incredible, yeah. They're really good memories.
Yeah, it sounds great. What then made you decide to move back? Because obviously now you're back in the north.
So let me think.
Don't have to get too deep also. I'm sure there's lots of different reasons.
Yeah, what was the so I had my time there and I came back for a bit, but I felt really downtrodden that I was back up here. And I thought, you know, when you really look down on it, and I actually feel embarrassed that I felt like that, but I think we all go through it. But then I feel ashamed because I love living here and I would never, like, that's it now for me. I love it so much. As long as I'm up here, I'm happy. But I stayed for a bit longer and tried to extend it. And I was running my own business at this time. But in the end, and this is a confession, I would literally just take the bus from my stop, go to the end of the line, get on another one and go all the way back like every day. It was bizarre. I wasn't eating properly. I just have the same meal every day. I'd go to Whole Foods and get these particular paprika chips every day. Like for what reason, I don't know. Don't judge, but
there's no judgment on the Have You Made It podcast, Anastasia.
Thank you so much. It just came to an end point and I felt there was no community. I didn't know my neighbours and I remember just sitting there and I had like a bed sit and my neighbour was arguing with her boyfriend and he was horrible and I could hear it through the thing, and then my neighbour below me started shouting and screaming at me one day because I was up too early, and you know, and you just think, I am so lonely. And I stopped talking to people because it felt hard to do so. And I think for me, something I've realised, although I'm an introvert, any single person in the world needs a community. However that looks, you need a community. It could be one person or it could be 10, but you have to have people around you in some sense.
And I feel like there's this thing with London where it can kind of really grind you down. Yeah. So even like you just said, the jobs that you had sound like these amazing experiences. And sometimes also you feel like this is what living is, but also there's a complete other side to it. Like the whole reason that I moved back up north from London was I was so burnt out, like just getting the commute, because this was during like, well, actually it was just before COVID. I was started to get really burnt out, like horrendously so, and I was like, I think I want to move back. And I remember Ellis being like, no, we've got to hold it out for another year, and then COVID happened. So I was like, and then I had, to be honest, COVID in London, best time of my life in London at that point, because I lived on the doorstep of Victoria Park, and I would just go for my daily hour walk around Victoria Park. And then I was living with like my boyfriend at the time. So I had someone, so for me,
Yeah,
that experience of London, I actually realised, and I was like, hang on, I can do all of this. I don't have to be here to do the things
yeah,
that I'm like really enjoying doing. And then in the end, yeah, we decided to move back up north. But before that, I was like so bent out, like just the commuting around, like
absolutely.
if your tube was like, I used to get the tube and then the overground to get to work. I used to work in Soho and I lived in Hackney, and that's not a bad commute at all for London, really. But if the overground was cancelled or something, and you had to get that bus, and it's pissing down with rain,
Well,
and
and
you end up, and every single bus is absolutely rammed, and then you have to like
it's
walk to the next
slippery.
stop, and
Oh
then
no,
yeah, and then you
my
walk
back
into the
hurt.
stop, and you've got like your massive bag with like your
And you
laptop in.
and honestly, my back always hurt every day. I think it was like
Same.
every single day.
Literally same. I used to have the worst back pain, and I'm absolutely fine now because I work from home. I don't have to commute.
Exactly. We can stretch and do this whenever we need. I think it's interesting what you said because I also got burnt out, which led to me having pneumonia. And that was a big trigger for me where I was like, I have to move back because I was so ill and I couldn't look after myself. So I came up in a kind of like emergency, like, right, I'm coming home. My mum's going to take care of me. And then I kind of thought, this is really nice.
Yeah,
This is
it
like a
feels
field.
indulgent
Yeah.
almost. After you've had that experience in London, you come back and you're like, I feel like I'm like at a spa. And all I am is like in my mum's house, like just looking out into a garden.
Yeah, but there's a field and like the air's nice and cleaner and my back doesn't hurt as much. I'm not lugging a tote bag around with me. Like, do you know, it just,
Literally.
London, even now when we go down, like as tourists, the backache is unreal. Like as soon as I get
Yeah.
there,
It's like
the
your back's like, oh, she's back.
yeah.
She's back in London. No. Literally. And there is something about, we're going way off topic here, but there is something about the air. We had this eucalyptus plant in our flat in London for like almost 4 years, and it lived outside of our front door. We lived in like a terrace, like a Victorian terrace house, and we was on like you go up the stairs, and we was on like the middle floor. And we had this eucalyptus plant, and it didn't grow for 4 years. It didn't grow. We moved back up north. We put it outside. Didn't do anything different with it. Just put it in this exact same spot outside our front door. And within like 3 months, it like tripled in size. And now it is
So
absolutely massive. And I'm just like, it's the air.
it's the air,
It's
it's the vibe, it's the
the energy.
energy of the place, I'm telling you, because my garden is thriving. And in London, my plants were not that happy either. But I will
There
say,
you go.
disclaimer, we're not a London hating podcast, guys. But
We're not.
n not always London. Sometimes let's go home. And do you know what I mean? It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be the center of your world. And I think you have to go through that process as a young person from the north who wants to escape. You go through it and you think, this is the best thing ever. And then you think, well, I quite like to be at home.
Yeah. 100%. Like we were often coming back up north, like whenever we could afford like a train. And this was before trains were absolutely ridiculous. Like they were still ridiculous, but not to what they are now. I mean, some people do just stay in London and live it. And there's that horrible saying that I hate where it's like, if you're sick of London, you're sick of life or something like that. There's this I remember someone saying it to me when I was in the London office and they said that to me, and I was like, I'm actually moving back up north next week. And it's not because I was like, there's still so many amazing things to London. Like we still like to go. You're right, we're not a London hating podcast, but
But
the point is you don't have to be there to like be a creative or be the show of it to be happy, if you know what I mean. Like being
exactly.
there isn't the most important thing. Like you can have happiness
You can
back
show
in
in
your
other ways.
town.
And yeah,
100%.
I think for me, it's reframing it as home is no better or worse than anywhere else. It's just how you are when you are there. And I think this whole hierarchy of like London being the centre of the whole universe. Before we started recording, we were talking about statistics of creative jobs in London versus up north. There's many studies, but all signs point to the fact that we need more of us here. And sometimes the light needs to be taken away from London a little bit. There's enough for everyone. Do you know what I mean? And I think centering creatives up north is vital. So shout out to you.
Yeah, thanks. But you're so right, because there's this like thing where it's like all the like creative people in these small towns like end up just ditching the town. Like it'd be so nice if everyone could just felt like they could stay.
Yeah. Maybe one day this is the utopian dream that we're aiming for.
Yeah, where everyone can just like get a job in a creative field in the city that they're
And
from.
there's funding. Can you imagine?
Imagine! Wow. Seriously though. Don't even get me started on funding, because that's a whole other absolute disgrace. What I will ask you this. So there's this concept of home to you, and you've also mentioned like about your gardens thrive, and you post a lot about your gardening, and I feel like what you share, and I know what people share online isn't necessarily always the case of what it is, but it feels like you have a really like content and wholesome life.
Oh,
It seems that way, and the way that everything that we've spoken about, it seems like you feel content with your life. So I was going to ask you about your concept of making it in an artistic industry and how you feel about that, and like how you feel about your life as an artist right now, like being back in the north as well.
so interesting. I feel like for me, making it is being your most authentic self, however that shows up, but it's being honest with yourself and with other people. That doesn't mean you have to tell everyone everything, but it means that you are showing up in a way that you feel is honest and true. And being in the north, for me, when I think about this, I think about me as a child and like, what would I want to hear? I'd want to hear that the place you are from, without fetishizing the fact that you're northern, because I think I think a lot of the London centric view is that, and it shouldn't be. It is a perspective that is unique to you, and that's something I try in my own work and to encourage in my workshops, is that everyone has this unique perspective, but some people feel that their life is not interesting enough, or they are not cool enough, or like I always think I don't have real nice clothes, or do you know what I mean? I don't drive. Like, not everything is ticked, but that's all right because that is just who I am. So I think being northern and that feeling of making it is so intertwined because it's identity. It's that everyday life can be inspiring. You can take inspiration from that. You don't have to be seen at certain places or go to certain exhibitions or spend loads of money. It can just be showing up in your own way. And being up here for me, and having a garden now especially, the north feels like space. It feels like I have space. And I struggle with my confidence massively. I know that wasn't the question, but that's a big thing for me. And I think it's important to say that because I would never want someone to watch or listen to this and just think it's all fine. I'm content with my life, but I still struggle. I still almost cancelled on you because I doubt myself, and I don't want you to call me an artist because I don't feel like one, but then I appreciate it. But that is just who I am. And so, yeah, long answer short, just be authentic, be true to yourself. And being northern, coming from a community that maybe does not have a history of art or have that kind of backing, it will only give you more of a unique perspective.
Yeah, I feel like a unique voice
Yeah,
is actually so important,
it
and
is.
is what people are interested in.
Yeah.
Before I carry on that point, that was really lovely, and I think that's a really nice concept of making it. And I think for a lot of artists, that will probably actually be very useful to hear, because I think it can be so wrapped up, because of what the art industry is like. You can get so wrapped up in, even sometimes, like, because it can be lonely being a creative, and you can see somebody else's success, which might be getting an exhibition at a certain gallery or something like that, and you can look at it and be like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not doing well, I'm not making it. And that isn't the case actually at all. It's
That's
exactly
such a
what
good
you've
point.
just said.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be an accolade, or I think you just have to turn it in your head to be personal to you as well, because it's not one size fits all. Like I had a feature in Vogue, and my friend, bless her, she always bigs me up, and if I'm ever down, she'll be like, you were featured in Vogue, like you've been in magazines, you've done loads of stuff, but it just doesn't feel as great as just being content. Like sometimes I just go in the garden and just lay on the floor, and to me it's just about being who you want to be. And it's such a cheesy answer, but it's true. And I think being creative, being honest about that, showing up in your community, however that may be, is so important. And you mentioned the garden. I think creating doesn't have to be limited to one thing. It doesn't have to be limited to one style. Gardening for me is being creative. Making food is creative. It's showing up for yourself as yourself every day.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of your artwork is quite naturistic, is that a word? I've just made up a word,
It was good
naturistic.
there at work.
I feel like your art is naturistic. I feel like you get influences from nature, a lot of your work, just from seeing like your little iconic leaves and things like that. So it's so
Definitely.
nice knowing that even I think probably before you know, even when you was in London and creating and that kind of thing, you didn't have a garden, for example? You've always had this like link to nature.
Always. And I've had that since I was little because my dad always used to tell me that if there's a problem, just go in the garden. And for me, that's been a massive help. Obviously, it doesn't take the place of therapy, but when I go in the garden, it feels like everything is perfect as it is. Like I'm looking right now and there's this dill plant that I've planted and it's just existing perfectly. And I think that if you're a person who gets value from nature, if I'm anxious or like the past few days have been quite stressful, I just go out there and it just like even watching the grass move or like I go in my little polytunnel and I just listen to the sound of the wind. It's so basic. It's like therapy 101, but it actually works. I smell the herbs, I get a soil on my hands, and it feels like a proper cleanse just being in that space.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds lovely. It
You're
sounds
welcome
so.
anytime.
Oh, I'd love to come to your garden.
Next podcast in the polytunnel, but it gets a bit hot in there. That's the only thing.
Oh, that's okay.
We can do it. We'll do it on a cold day.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. Yeah, see, I think it's so lovely. And there is a thing again about being northern. Like if you've been away from the north for a while and you come up and you're driving to your house or you're on the train and you see like all the countryside again, you're just like,
Wow.
yay.
And there's something about it, it mixes that, but there's like a bleakness there. And then there's how wild some of the nature is, like at Spurn Point. I love it there. Actually, when I was at college, they took us there and we just did some drawing all day. And I always remember that because that feeling of like the wind and everything was a bit messy. But I think when I was younger, I almost felt ashamed being because I'm from near Scunthorpe, I was born in Scunthorpe, and it's so rural but also industrial. And I used to think, God, this is so boring. It's just fields and fields. Isn't it funny when you come back and you're just like, oh my God,
Yeah,
this is
literally.
heaven. I don't feel
Literally.
ashamed. I feel like that's a really special thing now. And I wish I could tell younger me, like, there's no need to be ashamed of it. And I think rural communities, I know it's not super rural, but it is still rural. Like, there's not very good transport links still and not much support for people and a lot of agriculture. But I don't think you see them represented like these kind of places. You know, it's not, but they exist and the countryside is beautiful and you can have somewhere that's industrial and maybe a bit dirty, but then also you drive 5 minutes and it's beautiful fields.
Yeah. And it's actually such a great place. We're like proper enthusiastic now about
Yeah.
this area of the UK, like basically a propaganda to go.
It
But
is. Tourist board.
yeah, but it is so great. But the annoying thing is about the north is that if you're from a place like Scunthorpe, for example, transport getting to other places, even places fairly close by, is so hard to do. Trains are rubbish, buses are rubbish. Even getting from like Hull to Manchester, it's so expensive now. Like it's like 50 quid, 60 quid. Like my friend from Manchester wanted to get the train to come to where we are, and it was like 50 quid. I was like, you know what? Instead, get a train to Leeds. I'll drive, meet you in Leeds, and we'll go off to Yorkshire Sculpture Park. And that's what we did. Instead of like just because it's like you have to kind of like really logistically like work out how you're gonna meet people when really it should just be so easy. Like in London, if you're sorry again, slate in London. I'm sorry. I promise I do. Sorry,
You're gonna get like
but
shadow
like
banned or something by
I know.
TFL.
I know, but if you live on even the outskirts of London and you grow up around there, it's so easy for you to access
Yeah,
amazing things, creative things, theatre, art,
exactly.
music.
Spontaneously, you can just go.
Yeah,
And I think that's a big thing, isn't it? Accessibility. I feel like that is in the conversation of creativity and the North, accessibility is just a major thing. And I don't think it should be on the regular person. I think it should be on these institutions and the wider scene. Do you know what I mean? Too much is put on the small, I'm getting real political now, but too much is put on the small person and the people who are already underrepresented, already don't have our skin. Do you know what I mean? Why should it all be on them? It should be on the system itself to make it accessible. Kids in school should feel like art is a good career. They should feel supported, not to feel like they have no hopes growing up in a desolate place, I suppose.
yeah. And like your experience at university with all these people, these young teenagers who they probably knew straight away that they could have some form of
Exactly.
career in art because they were around it and were lucky enough to have parents or and the wealth associated
100%.
with art. They know straight away, whereas like for other people in different places don't have that.
Exactly. And I think it's important to highlight that, like working class creatives, the effects on them and like all the numbers that we have. Just Googling before, like I said, there's so much shocking statistics about that. But again, we need a part 4 now, clearly, because there's a lot to
I'm
say.
I'm well up for doing a part 2. I actually had this think of doing like a year, like in a year's time, like
I
talking
like
with the
that.
same people so we can like see what's been going on, or,
Yeah,
or just continuing the conversation. Or it might be less than a
100%.
year, maybe 6 months, because I'll get too excited probably.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I feel like we do have to start wrapping up, unfortunately, even though we could talk forever. But before we go, I would love it if you could give us some northern shout outs.
Of course, I have so many that it was actually quite hard to get it down. I picked two. So first of all, I want to shout out a place, Everything Toasty in Hull. Don't know if you've been, best toasties in the world. And they serve a West African hot sauce. And it's honestly, when I tell you this hot sauce, my boyfriend got me a jar of it for Christmas and it was gone within a week. Like I could eat it as a soup. The people there are lovely. I believe they started it on like a national lottery grant or something. They had some funding to do it. And Everything Toasty is amazing. And I just think they deserve to be, I mean, they're busy already, but even more busy, they're amazing. And then this is kind of, I mean, this is far away, but it's still northern. Someone I love following on Instagram is Damien John Kelly House. I'm just reading my notes, making sure I get this right. So Damien John Kelly House is a recovery centre for men in Liverpool, and they focus on doing activities to create a feeling of like connection and healing and recovery. So they do a lot of creative activities, like photography, for example. And I
Wow.
really love following what they do because their perspective and the way that they're using art as a therapeutic medium, and particularly seeing men, northern men, working together creatively and having that output, obsessed.
That sounds so good. I'm definitely going to give them a follow.
I will send you all the details. I
Yeah,
believe there's a guy
please
called
do.
Sam who helps facilitate and is part of it, so I'll send you everything.
Yeah, please do. That sounds so good. I love stuff like that. And it's so nice because I would never, how do you like find these people or come across them? So I'm so glad that you've shouted them out.
Honestly, they're great. And that's what I'm saying about outside of art. Obviously, that's a bad term, really. But by that, I think it's so important to see and hear and witness art by people who are outside of them fringes, because then we're decentralizing that art world, I think.
Hmm.
We're opening it up, which I feel is how it should be.
Yeah, oh, that's so nice.
You know, this has been so good. I'm so glad I didn't cancel because my anxiety was popping off and I was so worried. And my friend was like, "No, you'll be fine when it comes around. You'll be fine. Honestly, you're so amazing." And I think we would probably be really good friends and we'd probably just rant about things.
I think we should.
But I'm just down the road. I'm not even far away.
I know exactly. Oh, no, I'm so glad you didn't cancel. Like honestly, it's when I like ask people or talk to people about doing the podcast, I'm like, seriously, it's just like a chat, like I promise. And
Yeah.
but I get a little bit nervous too because at the end of the day, you're recording a conversation, but it is just a conversation, and I feel like I've had such a lovely chat with you. And I love your work, and I also just love who you are as a person. I think you've said such lovely things and very inspirational as well, I would say.
Thank you so much. This has totally made my week. And just thank you for your space to get me to say this because I've not done any interview or anything for ages. And I feel like I'm in a better place now to do it. So if it wasn't for your great questions, I wouldn't feel so comfortable. So thank you, Beth.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, well, I guess we'll have to say goodbye. Thank you so much, Anastasia. It's been so lovely speaking with you. I'll obviously put your Instagram below, and all of your northern shout outs and everything like that will all be included in the description. And I'm sure we'll chat again soon, very soon.
Thank you so, 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 so much. And thank you to anyone who listened this far as well. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
always
thank you.
lovely.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
bye.
Seriously, you've been amazing.
Thank you, bye. Hi, it's me again. Thank you so much for listening to that episode with Anastasia. I've just listened to it back and I just loved it. What a lovely conversation. What an inspiring, just all round good person Anastasia is. I loved hearing all of her takes on the art world and the experiences that she had like down in London and the experiences that she has now. I find it super interesting. So thank you so much, Anastasia, for being on the podcast. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. If you don't already follow Anastasia, then make sure you do go follow her on Instagram and check out her work, and do the same for UpNORF too. So give us a little follow. You can read all the conversations we're having with people, not just people we have on the podcast. We have interviews with people who are super inspiring and are doing amazing work. So yeah, go and check it out. Have You Made It is brought to you by UpNORF, where we're connecting creatives of the North. You can follow us on Instagram, and don't forget to follow the podcast on Spotify too, and subscribe to UpNORF TV on YouTube. Thanks, and we'll catch you next time.